Hello and welcome to the Royal Beat Collection with me, Russell Myers. In this show, we'll take you to the heart of royal matters, ably assisted by royal experts in the know. After Princess Catherine's cancer diagnosis, we discuss her return to work and how her and Prince William are now doing things differently.
The post that the Prince of Wales shared to celebrate his wife and her 43rd birthday, we saw a very different level of emotion. He wrote, "To the most incredible wife and mother, the strength you've shown over the last year has been remarkable. George, Charlotte, Louis and I are so proud of you. Happy birthday, Catherine. We love you." And signed it W. These are not declarations we're used to.
They're not, and actually you've got to think, would, Queen Elizabeth have written something like that about Prince Philip? I mean, we always quote that famous phrase that she said, "He's been my strength and stay all these years."
That's
that
about
was about as far
yeah.
as it went. But you don't forget, William and Kate are of a different generation. In fact, King Charles and Queen Camilla are of a different generation to those who came before them as well. This last 12 months has completely changed everything. A year ago, we didn't know that Kate was about to go into hospital for that major abdominal surgery. Then we found out that the King had that prostate operation, then his cancer issue, then Kate's cancer issue. And a lot of the medics, and in fact the chief executive of the Royal Marsden was saying this the other day, that the openness that the royal family have shown on all these matters, the operations and the following cancer diagnoses, has really helped, because it helps people talk about it, it helps people feel less isolated.
The Princess of Wales returned to work, marking her first engagement of 2025. She visited the Royal Marsden Hospital in London to meet patients and also to thank staff, because we now know that this is where she received her own treatment. And Russell, this was a really significant return to form for her and return to work.
Yeah, very much so. And I think quite telling that she used her first engagement back. I mean, of course, we've seen her over Christmas at a carol concert with the rest of the family. We saw her at Wimbledon and at Trooping the Colour in the summer. But this is her first official engagement back in well over a year. And choosing to mix with patients, to thank the hospital staff, the doctors and nurses that had looked after her, I thought was a very nice touch to make sure that that was her first foray back into royal life. We
know that William is already a patron, but she is now joining him as a patron of the Royal Marsden. Obviously, they'll be delighted to have her. Are we expecting to see more of this kind of work from Kate?
Well, look, now they are joint royal patrons, as they are called. I think that's great news for the Marsden, because it's not just a hospital that treats patients, it's a hospital that actually does a lot of research into preventing cancer and finding new treatments. But I think having William and Kate as joint patrons, that's great news for the Marsden and all the wonderful work they do with cancer.
Talking of great news, Sarah, she shared the fact that she is in remission on a post reflecting on her visit that day. We didn't know that she was in remission. She's used very careful language thus far. Is this good news?
It's fantastic news, isn't it? So wonderful news for her, but also really reassuring and uplifting for those other patients that she met there. And as we saw her with her hand on the knee, holding hands with them, hugging patients, she was there as one of them. She understands what it is they're going through, and she was able to show real empathy, but also to show that hopefully, and not for everyone, of course, but you can come out the other side. And as she described it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. She's looking forward to a fulfilling year. Lots to look forward to this year, but very different. She also talked about the fact they're all sitting in a room having chemotherapy together. And she said that must be quite reassuring, because I had to do it quietly, in secret, on my own.
Absolutely, and that is very much a part of the shared experience for so many men and women who are going through their own cancer battles. To do that on your own, that must be very isolating.
Yeah, and of course that was necessary, because they wanted to maintain her privacy and confidentiality, and she will have had those supporters with her, whether that's William, whether that's her family members, for example. And she did talk about the Royal Marsden walking alongside her and William as they'd navigated this. And I think the fact that they're joint patrons is really important. As you said, William's been involved for a long time. Catherine now with her own knowledge. But it's also his knowledge, because it's not just about supporting the patients, it's also about their loved ones. And she said at one point, it's even harder sometimes for the relatives, family and friends of those who are going through this. And William and the children and Kate's very close family know that only too well.
What Sarah just said about the family element, Kate was talking about how the pressures of your spouse or your family, the children, of course. We had William talking about that to journalists when he was in Cape Town just at the end of last year, talking about his brutal year, how it had been the worst year of his life. And I think, moving forward, we've not only seen the fact that they're willing to bare their soul, I suppose. It's very different talking about cancer treatment, your family feelings. We had William's announcement of Kate's birthday saying, "We love you." I mean, these are times that we've not seen before.
Plenty more still to come on the Royal Beat collection, but first, here's what else you can watch on True Royalty TV.
Join me, Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, on The Royal Beat Back in Time as I dive into the history books with expert guests to uncover the scandals and secrets of the monarchy in years gone by. Queen Victoria's relationship with men delves into her close bond with Lord Melbourne and also her tense interactions with William Gladstone. Look back at the spectacular splendour when kings and queens are crowned in the history of coronations. He was the ultimate, and some would say the original royal rock star. Find out more about his dramatic life in The Duke of Monmouth, the Royal Rebel. You can watch all episodes of The Royal Beat Back in Time only on True Royalty, the home of Royal TV.
You're watching the Royal Beat collection.
Let's talk about his relationship with Catherine. And for a long time she was Waity Katie, but actually they seem very solid as a couple.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact is, I think the fact that they were friends first, they've shared so much since they met at university, from being friends to lovers to then having that long relationship, living together before they're married. It was a great education, really, for somebody who's had to come in from the outside, where we've seen with, how difficult it was for Meghan to come in from the outside. It's a hugely, slightly wacky world, the world of royalty. So she was able to build that and understanding. But I think in their 10-year decade of marriage, it's been a huge success. She's a huge asset to the royal family. It's quite clear that when their time comes to be king and queen, they won't be young. He'll be, he'll probably be in his 50s and her too, but they're going to be a very elegant and I think do a great deal of good for Great Britain PLC, and I think they'll be a star couple, for a very long time.
It's kind of the time span that the Queen and Philip had so secretly, we believe, wanted for themselves. How important will that be to the kind of monarch he becomes, the fact that he has been afforded this chance to grow with his family?
Hugely important. I think that the Queen was always acknowledged the fact that there needed to be time for William, and as the heir to the heir, he had that time to spend with his family. He stayed longer in the military, then he extended it to be a air ambulance pilot, and all of that time he was sort of having time with his family and having time to develop that relationship with his family, and I think he very much is a family member. And
obviously they've then got the responsibility of raising another future heir. If George will take to the throne, he will be King George. How are they approaching that?
When they're in public situations, little George looks like he has the weight of the world on him sometimes. But William always whispering to him, talking to him, explaining things to him, I think, and that's very important. And also they're being allowed to live normal life, being raised in a London school, going to school, normal hours, meeting, having friends. And I think that's essentially the way they've raised their children, to be kind, be considerate, and, I think that they're a credit to them.
Dickie, can I talk to you about the announcement that the Waleses are seeking a new hire, a CEO?
It's an interesting one, because in the past, if one looked at a CEO in the late Queen's household, I suppose the late Lord Chamberlain, David Airlie, was the CEO of the household. This CEO, it seems as though he's being brought in or she is being brought in to ease the pressure from the private secretaries, because at the moment and up until now, they have been responsible for everything: the way the household is run, the way the engagements is run, the way the office is run. In fact, everything to do with Prince and Princess of Wales, or late Queen or King.
So if we look at what the core values that they're asking to see in potential candidates, they want discretion, humility, integrity and diplomacy. Someone who's emotionally intelligent with a low ego, a strong self-awareness and an understanding of their impact on others.
Well, that's ruled me out for a start. I don't think I can get that job. But the CEO thing's really interesting because you might correct me if I'm wrong, Dickie, but some elements of the royal household are, you know, they're obviously Elizabethan, they're obviously Edwardian, even Victorian in some aspects. But this is a young couple that are looking into the private sector. Normally, the bosses of households would maybe be taken on secondment from a government office, but they said no. We actually want someone from the private sector that can come in and do strategy. So it's like a business strategy. Where do we go?
He's playing on a global stage, and he really needs somebody in his household, or in their household, that can cope with all of that. It's a lot, isn't it?
Is to cope with that and look to the future.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's towing that fine line between them sort of being a brand and a business, and being a family, and navigating that. I think there is the potential for tensions further down the line. It's a bold move.
Always.
It's a bold move. It reflects them wanting to, I think, shake things up a little bit.
You're watching the Royal Beat Collection. We'll be back right after this short break. Explore our shows on True Royalty TV, the only on-demand channel devoted to the best documentaries about royalty. They left the royal family for a life in California. Chart the highs and lows of their departure in Harry and Meghan, The Rise and Fall. Find out how the royal family has evolved in the last century and how it will continue to change in the future of the monarchy. Uncover how Princess Catherine was mentored by the late Queen in Kate and the Queen, A Special Relationship. You can get this and more only on True Royalty, the home of Royal TV. Lots more still to come on the Royal Beat Collection.
The Princess of Wales seemed in her element this week when she visited both a textile mill and print works in the north of England. The former actually had a family tie for the princess, with the company having acquired her own family's manufacturing business over 60 years ago. And family was very much the topic of the day, with the princess meeting one of the young workers' daughters there, who told Catherine that she loved to dance, which prompted the princess to reveal that her own daughter Charlotte loves tap and ballet too. So we thought, actually, it's always nice to understand how the kids are growing, what their interests and hobbies are. So, I mean, Katie, are you able to share with us anything that you know about what they do in their downtime when they haven't got, you know, school to attend?
I know that they spend their summers mostly in Norfolk, which I think is partly them not wanting to be seen to jet off to Mustique. And I know, because I have some very close friends up in Norfolk, that there's a special place where they go to sail, and that Catherine has taught all of them to sail, I think including William, but certainly all three of the children. They love to sail, they love to go on long dog walks, they love to be outdoors. But I think in terms of what they're doing in their term time, just taking that visit to the textile factory, which could have been a pretty boring engagement, apart from her outfit, right? She's very clever, the princess, in that she knows, in order to give this engagement some publicity, to generate those headlines, a lovely thing to say when she's meeting little Charlotte, well, you know what, my little girl Charlotte also loves to dance. And she does. I think she does tap and she does ballet. In fact, Prince George has also had dance lessons, because when he was at Thomas's, ballet was also on the curriculum there, so he's done it too. But you know, they do drop these lovely little, very charming tidbits of information.
I love on these engagements where they see we're there and we're reporting in it, but they are being genuine. They're talking to people and they drop these lovely little anecdotes about the children. The most memorable ones is when I think Princess of Wales was at a job with the rugby team, and she said that Louis loves playing rugby, and I can just imagine young Louis with a rugby ball running around the garden. And then I think William dropped one in saying that that George likes Led Zeppelin and AC/DC. Yeah. And again, I can just draw this picture of the, you know, Anne Hall dancing
That's what's
around.
blaring on the Amazon Echo when they're making breakfast, right?
But it just really gives a nice flavour of how the, you know, you learn about a little bit more about the family.
It's lovely.
Nice.
And they're great football players. George is a very talented football player, and Charlotte is also playing as well now.
It's also very clever, isn't it? Because you're talking to people who've come to see them and saying, well, your kids do that, my kids do that
Yeah.
too. Our kids doing what every other child is probably doing. in
It
the
comes
UK.
back to that word I used earlier, which is relatability, because it's like, oh, they're just like us. Of course they're not. As you point out, it's not normal. He's a prince who's going to be king one day, but there is a relatability about them. And I think that family dynamic that they've been more willing to share in recent years is probably why he topped that popularity poll in America, Kate, because they see him as a dad, not just as a future king.
This week we heard that, well, there was speculation that unlike senior royal men who've gone before him, Prince George will not necessarily be expected to join the military. And this news has apparently come from one of Prince William's close friends. So do you think there's any truth in that? Because that would be a real break with tradition, wouldn't it, Ross?
Yeah, I can't see it, to be honest. I think that the association between the royal family and the military is something that is embedded within the relationship between Crown and the public. I mean, it's something that would be expected. I think you can't have a commander-in-chief, as George will be as a monarch, if he hasn't served. And I think that, you don't know him as a personality, but you would think that you would want to do that if that was your role, because you're meeting the troops, you are having to inspect them, and I think you'd want that experience.
I asked William once about that, and why, when he got engaged to Kate, and I said, why left it so long? And he said, because I had to go in the army, I had to go in the Air Force, I had to go in the Navy, the Marines, and I did all those pictures of them. He said, because when I become the king, I'll be head of the armed forces. And he said, and to serve. And if you look at Prince Charles, the king now, I mean, he's got his wings. William's got his wings, parachuting and everything. And I don't see how he can not do it, if at least go in one branch of the services.
You talk about the options that they're giving their children, moving to Windsor, having that family life and that central unit that they have become, which is probably very, very different to how other royal children have been brought up. That's super commendable, but I can't see any other avenue for George if he wants to take the top job one day.
Lots more still to come on the Royal Beat Collection, but first, find out what else you could watch on True Royalty TV.
True Royalty TV is the only on-demand channel devoted to royalty. Join me, Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, on the Royal Beat Book Club, the series which reviews the best royal books in print. Dive into June Wollerton's book and get bunting ready to discover pomp and pageantry at its finest in our history of royal jubilees. Author Craig Brown presents a different side to Queen Elizabeth in A Voyage Around the Queen. Turn the pages of Tiffany Jenkins' book exploring the history and current state of privacy and how it impacts the monarchy in royal private lives. You can watch all episodes of the Royal Beat Book Club only on True Royalty, the home of Royal TV.
You're watching the Royal Beat Collection. After Princess Catherine's cancer diagnosis, we discuss her return to work and how her and Prince William are now doing things differently.
What a show and what a week. As we mentioned, Princess Catherine shared some incredible news regarding her health earlier this week with, well, frankly, this extraordinary video.
As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The last 9 months have been incredibly tough for us as a family. Life as you know it can change in an instant, and we've had to find a way to navigate the stormy waters and road unknown.
Fantastic news regarding the updates that were contained within that film, and a complete step change, I think we can all agree, in terms of the way this family have chosen to communicate with their public. Kate?
This time, Kensington Palace just let the princess's words speak for herself. There was context around it. We were briefed that exactly what she says in the video, there's a long road ahead. And the next day after this was released, we had Prince of Wales in Wales doing engagements saying exactly that, saying
reiterating.
It's good news, but there's a long way to go. But it's intimate. We see them as lovers lying down on a
I would arguably
blanket.
say for the first time they have shown themselves as man and wife.
Yes.
In a way that we have never seen or been privy to before. And for me, I don't know if you agree with this, Elsa and Wesley, but such a tactile family. And that's something we don't see when they're out on engagement. But this is a family at the moment that seemingly are so connected. They're so tactile. They can't take their hands off each other because the matriarch at the heart of them, you know, is in danger in terms of her health.
And they've protected the children's privacy, rightly so, throughout their lives. So to see them in this way is they're really saying, we're going to give you something here. We're going to let the public in a way that they haven't done before.
We know they're parents, but it's very rare that we see them parenting, and I think that really brought that message home. Elsa, put yourself in the shoes of what would be your former counterpart in terms of their press secretary, their advisors. Good advice to make this statement?
Oh, yes, very, very good advice. I mean, there's such an appetite, as Kate will know more than any of us, about what is going on behind the scenes, how the Princess of Wales is recovering. And I would challenge anyone who has seen this video not to be incredibly emotionally moved by it.
It's a playing field that feels even in this instance.
Absolutely.
There is no...
You could be a prince or a pauper, and it is non-discriminatory. It can go after anybody. Yeah. And I think just the warmth, the emotion, you know, the passion, and also the family unit.
This family unit, the Middletons playing cards with their grandchildren, you know, lovely stuff, lovely simple scenes, which is then backed up in that message from her. It's about the simple pleasures in life. It's about loved and being loved. Wesley, how do you think the history books will remember this moment?
I think this is one of the best pieces of royal communications of recent years. Visually, they're links with the past. So we see them in the Norfolk countryside, on the Sandringham estate, but also Holcombe Beach. So there are images of Charles and Anne on Holcombe Beach in the late 50s with their parents. There used to be a royal beach hut there. So you see them communicating with nature.
That's all we've got time for on this episode of the Royal Beat Collection, but do keep the conversation going on socials. Just search True Royalty TV and make sure you listen to the Royal Beat podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching.